100,000 homes in the market. 50% of those homes were short sales or foreclosures. Prices coming down 20, 30%. Yeah, remember that? Okay. Well, as a response to that, what the government and the Federal Reserve did is they started to aggressively lower interest rates to try to help the marketplace recover quicker. Yes? How would that help the marketplace recover quicker? Who wants to tell me? If you make the cost of money cheaper, what happens?
More consumers come.
Yes, you increase demand. Yes? So we went from 6.5% in 2008 down to 3.3% by 2012. Let me ask you guys a question. When the marketplace starts to heat up and demand rises dramatically, what happens to the amount of expired listings? I'm sorry, what do they do?
Decrease.
Oh, decrease dramatically. So there goes my maintaining, yes?
Yes.
Yes. So I would love to report to you guys that I responded to that very maturely. That I said, hey, you know what? This marketplace is shifting. I think I need to pivot and start doing something different. That is not what I did. Instead, what I did is I threw a little temper tantrum. And for 90 days, I'm banging my head against the wall. Yes? Why? Money has an addictive quality, and because of it, we get addicted to the way that we receive it. So because you made money this way before, guess what? You need another hit. I'm just going to keep going right back to the same thing. Yes? So for 90 days, what I did is I just said, oh, I got to prospect more. I got to talk to more expires. Yeah? You know what I realized? There wasn't enough leads there for me to keep growing. Anybody notice over the last 2 years that there haven't been enough leads in your previous lead sources to keep growing? Yes. Okay.
No.
Yeah, no. Well, he's on to it. Yeah. So I realized this, and for me personally, that was completely unacceptable to me. Okay. How many people besides me have ever got themselves to a place, either personally or professionally, maybe in like a relationship, in a personal context, where you said, this, whatever this is no longer acceptable to me. And I don't know what the way is, but I'm gonna either find the way or make the way. You know about that, Betty, don't you? Yep, went through that recently. And that's the state that you need to be in order to make meaningful change. So I didn't know what the way was, though, because the only thing I knew was expireds. I heard one time, think about this, write this down if you're taking notes. If you only have one stream of business, you don't have a business. Guess what? Here I am thinking I'm the man doing 100 deals, 75 expireds, but they're all from one source. Dude, did I really have a business? Nope. You need multiple legs on a table in order for the table to be sturdy, right? So I did what I normally do when I don't know what the way is I sought out a guide. We are all looking for guides to help us to solve our problems, yes? Financial problems, health problems, relationship problems, and money problems. So I sought out a guide. I looked for the best coaches, the best trainers, the best mentors, and courses that could teach me about this lead source, because I don't know if you guys are aware of this. We live in heaven's waiting room. You're good, bro. Figure it out. You'll get it. So what I mean by we live in heaven's waiting room, we have the largest elderly population in the country. What's the second largest demographic in the country behind millennials? Louder?
Boomers.
How old are boomers? 65 plus. No disrespect to anybody in the room who might be in that age bracket, okay? But like, they're older. So let me ask you a question. What's the probability that that lead source will continue to be plentiful as time progresses? Very high. So got access to the best coaches, the best trainers, the best mentors, the best coaches, and courses that could teach me where to get the data, how to get their phone numbers, what to say and how to say it. This lead source became 50% of my business. I went from 100 transactions to 200 transactions in a calendar year on this lead source alone. You can clap now. Yeah, that's good. So, and I believe that everybody in this room with the right skill set, the right mental maps, overcoming some internal beliefs that stop you from reaching out to this group, you can accomplish anything I've done, if not more. And the reason I know that, the same way I know the sky is blue and the grass is green, is because this guy's standing next to me. So I taught Heath everything I know about probate. I role played with him personally 3 days a week for 6 months. As a part-time cop and a part-time agent, full-time cop, he did 21 transactions in a calendar year. Most agents are full-time agents and don't do that many deals. And almost all of them were from probates and estates. He recently retired, now is listing 2 to 4 properties per month from this source. So I know it works, the same way I know the sky is blue and the grass is green. And our intention today is to equip you with what you need in order to make this source a meaningful source. Because let me ask you a question. If we go from 6 to 7 million transactions in a calendar year to 3.8 million, and if 90% of all homeowners who own a home have mortgages less than 6%, who's selling? Who? People that have to. Yes?
Yes.
Period, end of story. Whether it's financial hardship, Adelis works in that particular source, death, divorce, job relocation, right? And if we live in heaven's rating room, death would be the one to do. Yes or yes? Got it. Okay. So I've spent the last 17 years of my career. I sold over 2,000 properties, 80% of that business being listings sold, coaching company, 100 coaching clients, 12 of which make over $1 million a year. I own part of a Keller Williams office, sold it back, and in 2.5 years have grown the Elite Builders Nation into 364 agents in 15 states. That also deserves a clap, yes? So what we're going to do today is something that you guys are not used to. Because I know you guys go to events, you go to learning events, you hear a lot of wispy platitudes. You heard a lot of, you can do it. Most people teach mindset because they can't teach tactics. So what we're going to do today is tactical. Me and Heath are going to role play together this conversation. As we're role playing it, I'm going to stop and break down what's happening and what we're doing and why. So that way, when you leave here today, you can leave with something you can actually go into the marketplace and make money. Who's up for this? Say aye. I'm sorry, I don't know if I drove all the way here for that level of energy. Who's up for this? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good.
Also, Aaron, before you start, I just want to say that at the end of the presentation, I have a QR code. So Aaron and Keith would role play, and they would send me the recordings, and I typed it all up and created a probate script. And so we'll give it away at the end. It's at the very bottom after.
Yeah, we'll give it to you for free. Don't worry about it. You can just leave a tip. No, I'm just kidding.
You just buy me a coffee.
Yeah. All right, great. So I guess we can go ahead and begin that conversation.
Yeah, that's fine.
So you could stand up if you want. Yeah.
Sure.
So what we're going to do is from start to finish role play the beginning of the conversation to setting the appointment. Now, I first want to address before we have this conversation an internal belief that ends up stopping people from calling this group. So what do you guys imagine is the internal belief that stops people from reaching out? Rejection.
Like you're an ambulance chaser.
Ah, you're an ambulance chaser. Yes? Yeah, 100%. Why would I call these people? Somebody just died. That's terrible. Yeah? Okay, so go ahead.
I was going to say it's mindset. Like he's saying, it's an internal belief. Like I battled with this for a long time.
Because
I
despite,
struggled with it.
yeah, which was funny because despite the fact that he would bust down doors like this with like an AK-47, he would call me and be like, I don't know, bro. I don't know if we should call these people. Like, what are you talking about? Why are you scared here, but you're not scared there, right? So it's an internal belief. Now, what I can tell you from calling thousands of these individuals and listing hundreds of these properties is will there be 1 out of 1,000 that says they're mad? Yes. Okay. It's life. Let me ask you a question. When you call expireds, are they mad sometimes? When you call FSBOs, do they get pissed off and call you names your mom didn't give you? Of course. So this is no different. Yes? 100%. Now, what I've also found is that the ones who, recognize that you're reaching out with the intention to be of service, and that has to be with the approach, are extremely appreciative. Because more often than not, they don't live here, right? Because mom and dad came to retire down in South Florida. And it's a very difficult time, right? From an emotional perspective. And number two, it's very overwhelming because there's a whole house full of contents and there's all of these practical components that they need to take care of, right? So really, whoever can solve the most problems and add the most value, they win, right? Everybody's so focused on getting the listing. Anybody can list the property, truthfully. They have a real estate license. But if I can help you with the contents, if I can get them shipped back to your sister in Arizona, if I can help you to get it cleared out, right? If I can help you to order a dumpster and get rid of all the junk on the inside, if I can arrange for it to be prepared for sale in terms of painting and flooring, and I have an assistant who oversees that process for them, am I adding tremendous amounts of value? Who are they going to list with? Me. Does that make sense? Good. So as long as we address that internal issue, now the next step is where we have a conversation. So let's begin the conversation. I'll be kind of a seller.
Okay.
You'll begin with the opening, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop when he opens, and I'm going to break down what's happening. And this can be interactive, okay? So I want you guys to be like, well, what if he says this? Because I know you love to do that. And when you do that, I'll answer it, okay? Everybody good with this? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hi, may I speak to Aaron?
You may. Yes, this is Aaron.
Hey, good morning, Aaron. My name's Heath. I received your information when my team pointed out that very shortly, if not already, you'll be appointed a representative of your family's estate. And the reason for my call, sir, is that I own a real estate business here in South Florida that specializes in the probate and trust process. And I know I might be premature in some way. I was just reaching out very respectfully just to see if you knew if the estate was planning on keeping the property or maybe leaning a little more towards selling it at some point in the future.
All right, pause, stop. Okay, good. Clap it up for Heath. Hey, because just so you know, if I was to ask any of you to do this, this would happen. Like you would get very uncomfortable very quickly, okay? So it's awesome that you're standing up and doing this.
Yeah.
And it demonstrates like professionalism. So what's happening here at the beginning? If you want to be perceived as a guide to help people to solve their problems, you have to deploy two things. Who wants to tell me what they are? Empathy is the first. Yes? What do we want to lead with? Don't you know who I am? I'm the #1 agent in my office that has one person. Yes? That's what we want to lead with. But instead, we should be leading with empathy. How did he lead with empathy in that opening? Yes, this requires you pay attention and speak back to me. How did he lead with empathy?
Too soon.
I may be a little premature in some way. I was calling very with regards to the real property. Empathy, yes? I have to lead with empathy. What's the second thing I have to deploy in order to be perceived as a guide? Value, I hear. What else?
Some sort of specialized knowledge.
Competency. Yes? I have to demonstrate that I know what I'm doing. How did he do that? What did he say?
Specialized.
I own a company. Yes? Do all you guys own your own real estate business? You don't think about it that way because you don't present it that way. You're like, I work for A, B, C, Y, Z, Y, X. No, you don't. You work for yourself. Yes? Because just so you know, in other models, like in that model, if they sold their business, you would get nothing. So you don't work for them. Yeah?
Can I explain why I say
Yeah.
that? Because a lot of people, when they call, they're like, hey, I'm Heath, real estate agent, right? Right away, so you say that, it triggers in their mind, they want to sell. You're right. We're not selling. But if you own a real estate business, you own a company, we have different options. We can do cash offers. We can help you lease. We can help you sell it down the road. So that you're not just tied into one thing. Now you can help them with multifaceted approach.
Yeah, love that. So we're deploying both of those things right out of the gate, right? Not like, hey, I heard Grandpa Jim died. Do you want to sell the house? That's pretty lame, right? You probably hang up on that person. Yeah. Instead, empathy and competency. Continue. Yeah. Oh, so you say that to me and I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know what we're going to do next, but I appreciate you calling.
Yeah, and again, I understand that it's definitely early in the process, and the reason for my call is I've helped a lot of families kind of navigate this process, and what I found out is that sometimes going into it and having these conversations that are forthcoming, it can be useful for them to have a clear, realistic picture and value. So in other words, if and I know it's an if right now because that decision hasn't been made, but if you were to sell, what realistically in the current market and in its current condition could you guys expect to receive as far as proceeds, as well as the max amount that it could sell for?
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I know that these conversations are forthcoming. Do you think that information would be at least helpful or useful to have on hand for you and the family?
Time out. So let's talk about what's happening there. So somebody says, I don't know what I'm going to do next, which is a frequent response. Yes. What are the potential responses that they can have? There's only 3.
Yes, no, or maybe.
I know you know, bro.
Oh.
So what are the potential responses? We're going to keep it. We're going to sell. We're not sure. Yeah. Well, then I would dig. And we'll get to that. Right. So, well, I guess we can do it now. So if somebody says to me like, hey, we have a family member that's living in it, I appreciate that. It's not uncommon in these dynamics that there be a family member living in the house. I guess what I'm aware of is, and my intention in asking this isn't to be nosy, just to see if I can give you any more information that could be helpful or useful in some way. When a family member's living there, their desire to keep the home is oftentimes different than their financial ability to do so. So do you think that they have the financial means to actually buy you guys out, or is that not a realistic expectation? Yeah. What's the probability that anybody in the house can afford it? Yeah, you can look at him. That was good. What's the probability that anybody in the house can afford it? See, Adelis calls these people. You know what she was doing when I said this? She was going like this. You know why? Because I coached her for a while. So I'm digging.
And you could also dig a little bit more into that and say, hey, if you had it your way,
yes,
And what would you like to see happen with the property? So now you're getting, oh, I want my brother to live there. I want him, because now you're feeling them out. And then you see where the personal representative stands.
That's perfect. So those are two different ways to get clarity. So yeah, I mean, it's clear to me that, there's somebody living there, and thank you for sharing that with me. Whenever they give you information, say thank you, because they don't have to. Yeah. Notice when I said my intention isn't to be nosy, why am I doing that? Because if anybody asks you a question, what do you feel like they're doing? Yes. And if I say my intention in asking it is to find out if I can give you any information that could be helpful or useful, who's that about?
Yeah.
Not me. Yeah. I'm making it clear that this is in your best interest, right? Does that answer your question? Yeah. So in that second piece, he's saying like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. My job is to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. Am I attached to this outcome, by the way? No. What do most agents do when they call? Oh, please, let's. Yeah. In a personal context, if somebody really wants you to do something, what is your natural response? Hey, you went like this. No. And all your guys is the same. Yes. If somebody's like, oh, please, what do you like, bro? Get away from me. That's repulsive. Yeah. So by me saying, hey, whatever you decide to do, I'll support you 100%. My job is to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. The reason that I'm asking is because we do find that when families are having conversations with regards to what to do, that it can be very helpful or useful to get a clear, realistic picture of equity. That's a good word, right? And net bottom line, what the proceeds would be if, and I'm clear that that is an if you did decide to sell. Why am I saying it that way? Why did he say if, and I'm clear that that's an if? Why? When you feel the slightest bit of pressure, what do? Even though you're a salesperson, you run away. Yeah. Most of you guys will go into a shopping establishment with the intention to buy, and somebody walks up to you and is like, hey, can I help you today? What do you say?
No, I'm just
nope, just looking. Meanwhile, you're there to spend money, yes? So you have to understand like how our psychology works so we can apply it in a way that increases the probability somebody's gonna like respond to us. Yeah. So let's say he says that to me and he's like, I'm like, yeah, I guess that could be helpful. What I'm aware of though, Heath, is that, I've been online, I've looked at some of these sites that give estimates of value. So I think we're good. I'm saying that
okay, saying to me. Yeah, and I definitely understand. And these sites, they do offer some kind of perspective in regard to the value. However, when we take a closer look at the market, kind of a market snapshot, what I'll send over to you is a tighter, realistic range. So we can kind of compare apples to apples to see what's actually happening right now in that community. And I don't mind. It's something that I'll be able to send over to you in an email. And this, if that's useful to you. This leads me to my next question, and that's when I jump into the ancillary services.
Do it.
Okay. Leads me to my next question, Aaron. And again, I don't know if it's necessary in this specific set of circumstances, but sometimes families can use some extra help, either preparing a property to sell or to keep, as far as getting the contents cleared out, such as an estate sale for items inside that may have value, getting donations lined up and getting the property cleared out, or even maximizing the value by doing some light handyman work, cleaning, painting, just kind of preparing the property. And again, I don't know if that's useful, but do you think some of those services could be beneficial to you and the family moving forward?
Time out. What are we doing? You're doing it, Peter. You understand, yes? Because what's the real challenge that they have? Yes, selling the property. But by the way, who can help them sell the property? Anybody who has a real estate license, yes? Yeah. So we're here trying to get listing agreements when what we should be looking for is problems that we can solve. Because whoever solves the most problems wins. Yes? So let's think about this. Let's imagine for a moment. I don't know if anybody in this room has ever gone through this before. Let's imagine for a moment you live in another state. You live in Indiana. Grandpa Joe passes away. His house is completely full as though he's still living there. All of his stuff. There's a car you got to get rid of, right? There's contents on the inside. You got to sift through everything. Is that a tremendous burden? You have to take time off work, yes? To fly, right? It interrupts your whole life, yeah? Huge problem. So how could we take some of that off of their shoulders, put onto ours, and make it as smooth and easy as possible? How can we do that? Give me ideas. Guys, this is the interactive portion of the presentation. I know you're used to coming to presentations where you sit here and look like little good boys and girls. There you go, really good vendors. Like, besides Carla, because we did this together. Junk removal, good. What else?
Cleaning service.
Cleaning service, what else? Movers,
Movers.
yes.
Painters.
Painters, yes.
Lawn service.
Lawn service, yes. Contractors, yes.
Painters.
You said painters? Yep. What else?
Lawyers.
Okay, most of them have attorneys, but if they don't, yeah. What do a lot of them lack in terms of resources that if they had, they could fix the property up?
Money.
Money! So could you lend them money? Most of you guys are like, I would never do that. Bro, you just put yourself on the HUD. My buddy Jose, who I taught this to in California, is going to do $2 million this year in GCI. He regularly does that, puts himself on the HUD. Guess how much he charges them to do it? Nothing. What if I said to you, hey, let's say you say to me, oh man, it's in terrible condition. Because how many times are these in terrible condition? 90% of the time. Okay, horrible condition.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh man, like we're getting all these offers from who?
Investors.
Oh, the Adelies of the world. Yeah, the Kevins of the world. They're making offers, right? Fine. No problem. Multiple options, multiple choices. And they're like, man, we'd love to be able to get more, but we don't have any money. What if you were able to say, hey, let me ask you a question, David. What if you could flip your own property? Would you do that? Tell me what you would say, though. I don't have.
Yeah, what about the money?
I get it. Well, what if we could come up with a solution for you and your family where we could provide the funds, oversee the modifications, and that could end up equating to you netting $50,000 more? Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah.
Okay. So just by you saying that demonstrates that we should get together and discuss the options. May I make a suggestion? Yeah, well, based on what you would kind of have to share with me, I'm hearing a couple things pretty clearly. The first one is you definitely want to sell. Not a question of if, it's just a question of when and how and who's going to help you. The second thing I'm hearing from you is that if you had access to a network and a team and someone that can oversee that process as well as resources, you wouldn't be opposed to putting some capital into the property so you and your family can net more money. So what I'd like to do is this, and I really wouldn't mind. We have a lot of clients that are at a similar stage in the process. And what we do initially is we schedule a very simple 10, maybe 15-minute phone or Zoom appointment where we can see each other. Because how many of these are out of town? Most of them.
Most.
And what I can show you in the beneficiaries in that time frame is a couple things very clearly. Number one, what would be top dollar if we decided to put capital in, and what we could get just leaving it in its as-is condition. Yep. The second thing we'll look at is net bottom line, what the proceeds would be to you and how the process would work if you hired us for the job and overseeing the modifications. And then at least this way, whatever you guys decide to do, if you decide to work with us or Kevin, you'll have all the most important information you need so you can make the decision that you feel is best in terms of how to proceed. Does that sound fair to you? Okay, if you were a homeowner in another state and somebody offered you to do that, what would you be thinking? This is fantastic. This is amazing. Yeah? So the goal and the purpose is to solve people's problems. I believe that the agents of the future will not just understand retail. They will understand retail. They will understand novations. They will understand wholesale. They will understand creative finance. They'll understand all of that, because then you as a agent, you can provide multiple options, multiple different ways to add value other than I'm the best agent. I'm good at putting in MLS. Yes, that's a loser's game. Okay.
So when it comes to the services, not to the extent of GC work, but just getting contents cleared out, donations, stuff like that, you can find companies out there that'll add themselves to the HUD as well. So if you're not, ready to put your own capital down to spend on a property to help these people, then you can contact these companies and they'll help you do the work ahead of time and then add themselves to the HUD and get paid at closing. So again, you're just helping them along, and whether it's yourself initially or a coordinator, kind of getting them, what they need and getting these people paid so they're not having to come out of pocket.
Yeah, and the key, yes, go ahead.
We do this on the investment side, but we have a purchase agreement signed. So the money that we're putting in, there's a commitment from the seller. On like an agent side, if you don't have a purchase agreement, how are you protecting?
I would have a listing agreement, and I'd put myself on the HUD like a deed, and I put like a deed in trust or something, tie it to the property.
Are you doing like a promissory note?
Yeah, I would do a promissory note with a deed in trust that ties it.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Good question. It's a technical question. Yes. Same. Yeah. So promissory note, deed in trust, you're tied. And Jose, he does this frequently, and he just asks directly because he had it happen one time where he got burned.
Right.
But now he's like, look, we only do this for people that are 100% committed to selling. So just so I'm clear, is there any other option other than selling? right? So he gets that, which kind of mitigates. And then he's just very clear with regards to structurally how it works, you know, in terms of a promissory note, deed and trust. Deed and trust is an instrument that ties the promissory note to the property, right? So you're going to get paid, like, at some point. Yeah, good question.
Whether it's you or the company you
Yeah,
use,
and
they'll do
what
the
I
same
was going to
thing.
share that I think is critically important is a lot of agents, we were just having this conversation. So what happens is that you'll hear these ancillary services, you know what most agents hear? Who do they think needs to manage all that?
No.
Yes. No, that is the wrong thinking. Instead, as, and me and Heath has had this conversation before. He'll be talking to me. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm going to do this. I said, what'd you say to me? He's like, yeah, you know, I'm just like helping out. No, what'd you say to me? Don't do that again.
Yeah.
You need to get people around you. So these vendors, they really want business. And they're happy to be the one that engages with the client. And you become an overseer of that. Yes? And then you just connect them in terms of payment. What I did, which he will probably evolve to, is we had somebody on our team, her name is Melissa, where she was our project manager. So the way I would pitch this is I'd be like, well, you know, I'm curious, Adelis, if we, you know, I have an assistant, a personal assistant, and which makes her your personal assistant. And what can happen if you're open to it is that she can oversee the process of getting contents donated to local charities, where she, you know, gives them access. We send you the form for donations. And then when we go through the process of modifying, you know, kitchens or flooring or whatever, she gets quotes and reports it back to you. Nothing happens until you give the green light, and then we just connect you with payment. I'm wondering, would that be helpful or useful to you, being that you're in Kansas? And they're like, yeah, that's amazing. You know what they would often ask me? Does this cost more money? Yes? Does this cost money? Nope. This is my way of adding value, taking as much off of your shoulders, putting it onto ours, and making it smooth and easy as possible. Does that make sense? Yeah, because what is everybody else trying to do? Charge them for everything. Yeah? So we're at the segment in the conversation where you're like, hey, would this be valuable to you? I'm like, yeah, you know what? That might be valuable. You know, we're not sure what we're going to do next with regards to the contents.
Yeah, and that's where he already closed, but that's where you go
Yeah.
into the phone or Zoom appointment. So look, Aaron, you know, I definitely agree that, you know, I can definitely send this information over to you. What we do initially, because I have a lot of clients in similar set of circumstances, I know you're out of the area. We just schedule a very brief, you know, 15, 20-minute, no obligation whatsoever, phone or Zoom appointment. This way we can see each other, and I'll be able to do a couple of things pretty clear. I'll be able to share my screen with you so we can go over, as far as what we talked about, the market analysis, and kind of look at that snapshot together and kind of get a clear, realistic picture of value. And I can also go over some of the ancillary services that you think will be helpful or beneficial to you. And at least this way, then you'll have all this information at your disposal to make a decision that you feel is best for you and the family as far as how to proceed. Does that sound fair?
Hey, notice how he sounds just like me. Yeah? So what most of us do, right, is we all think we over-entrepreneur things, yes? Anybody besides me ever be like, well, you know, that's good, but I'm going to figure it out my way. How long have you gone through those iterations? Right? Like, too long. So, like, you know, I think I know better. Yes. Well, here's what's interesting. He's basically verbatim with small little changes, but the framework is the same. And you're listing how many properties per month in this source?
2 to 4.
2 to 4 every single month. So why, like, if Martin Scorsese gave you a script, would you be like, nah, I think I'm going to rewrite it? Yes. Yeah. Good question. So there's 2 different places where you can get data. First place you can get data is from these third-party vendors. I'll give you pros and cons. The pros of third-party vendors is it's easy. You pay them money and you get an Excel spreadsheet. That's it. The cons, which outweigh the pros, you only get it once a month. You know what the problem with that is? Adelis has had it for longer than you, and she's been beating it up. Okay? She's like, yeah. You'll call and be like, I just spoke to somebody named Adeli. Yep. Are you guys together? Right? So, because she prospects. So, it's like calling old expireds, and data is important. You want it to be fresh. I don't want it to be now. The second thing that's problematic about it is oftentimes they don't give you all of the data. So they don't give you beneficiaries, right? They only give you like the person in charge, like personal representative. The problem with that is do you know how many properties I've listed where I couldn't get a hold of a personal representative? I talked to a beneficiary, they give me the personal representative's phone number, and then we do business. Yeah. The third problem with that is that their phone numbers aren't the best sometimes. Yeah? So those are the cons. Pros is it's easy. You'll get it fast. It'll just show up in your inbox. Another way to get the data is to go to the courthouse, right? The issue with the courthouse is that it takes time. No. Some of them do. It depends on the county.
In Broward County, you can log in for certain credits and stuff. You can get in
You have to
there
pay.
on the site, and then you have to go through. You have to know what you're looking for, though. Go through each court document for the case, and be able to highlight and get the personal representatives, get the addresses, get the phone numbers, and then check and see if there's even a property linked to that probate. Because a lot of times people file probate doesn't mean there's a
Doesn't mean there's
real property. They may do it just to get access to a bank account or what have you.
Yeah. So good point. And when you're there, you know who's going to be sitting there gathering data too? Because they've known about this source for a long time. They'll be there with their laptop, like gathering data, right? So I chose to do the courthouse for the reasons I just described. One, I get the information now. I would send somebody once a week to 3 different courthouses, Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County. The second is you get all of the beneficiaries, and then we would use a separate third party to get phone numbers. The issue with that, it's forewarned. The issue with forewarned is that it doesn't do batch. You have to do one at a time. So what I would do is I would pay per lead, independent of whether or not there was real property or not. So $2 per lead. You take all of that data now, and you put it into a CRM, okay? And then when it's in the CRM, you and anybody else on your team can start to reach out. When you say system, what do you mean? Oh, it's called forewarn.
It's IDI core, but they also have, you can send them a batch.
Forewarn?
Forewarn is IDI core.
Okay.
They have batch, they sell 175 on the website.
Okay, separate that you can pay and do batch.
You can also upload a batch on the.
So it's not bad. Okay, so that's how you get the data. Good question. Any other questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations? All right, so let's get into objections. So what do you perceive? Anybody who's called these or anybody in your mind, what do you think are some of the objections that pop up? I want to keep it. Okay, so let's say somebody says to you, I want to keep it. That's okay. My job is to help you. It's never to. She knows.
My cousin is a realtor.
Wait, so let's stay here and then we'll go to that. So my job is to help you. This is the fun part, objections. Everybody's like, ooh, ooh, ooh. So yeah, it's okay. My job's to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. I guess I'm curious if you did decide to keep it, and my intention in asking is not to be nosy, just to see if I could provide any more information that could be helpful or useful in some way. Would your goal be to keep it as like a secondary home? Would your goal be to like rent it out like as a short-term rental? What were you thinking? Adelis, role play with me. What were you thinking? Are you going to keep it as a secondary home? Are you going to do a short-term rental? Or
Rent it, fix it up and rent it. It only needs work, so we're gonna fix it up.
okay, cool. And then is your intention to hold on to it like forever, or is it more like you want to test out renting it with the goal and objective of some point you guys may move here and it'll be like your home?
No, we're just gonna rent it.
Okay. And have you ever been a long distance landlord before?
No.
Interesting. And would the intent, what did I just do there?
Hmm.
You know what this is called?
Doubt.
Yeah, imagine I have grenades here, okay? I just went like this. And I let it explode, right? Why? I'm like, have you ever been a long distance landlord? She said no. What did I do? No, I went, interesting. That caused her to be like, why is that interesting? Like, I don't know, right? Yeah, so, and would your intention be to maybe like have a project manager or like a, you know, like a property manager oversee the property, or were you going to try to do that long distance?
No, yeah, I was just gonna try to do it myself long distance.
Interesting. And I see that there's other beneficiaries here involved. Like, would they be involved in that process, or would like you basically take the whole reins and do it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, they want to be part of it. I'm trying to keep it for myself, but I have to figure out with them what to do.
Ah, I see. I know that can be challenging, and particularly if the goal and objective is to maintain familial harmony. I'm curious, like in terms of renting this out, if you could see realistically if you did decide to rent it out, because what's going to happen, I don't know if you're aware of this, and again, this isn't to persuade you either way. Did you know that the taxes are going to go up dramatically when you rent it?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it's no longer a homesteaded property. Now it's a secondary home, so they'll probably triple. So I can see here your family member was paying like $5,000. They'll probably be like $12,000. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. What also happens when it gets rented out is that the insurance goes up dramatically because it's not a primary residence. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know
Huh. So, and what were you thinking you could get for rent?
Like 5,000.
Okay. And if for some reason that number was more like, I don't know, like 3,500 or something, would that perhaps change what you were thinking?
Well, I'd have to figure out, because we have to split it. We do keep it between like 3 people, so there's not a lot of money there.
Then at that point, it may actually not be worth taking the time, the energy, and effort and try to maintain it and stuff. So with all that being said, may I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Well, based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, I'm hearing a couple things pretty clearly. The first one is, you're kind of leaning towards keeping the property, which is perfectly fine. Because as I mentioned, my job is to help. It's never to. Everybody in unison. My job is to help. It's never to.
Talking and doing anything.
Pound that into your brain, okay? At the same time, what I'm also hearing from you is that the more information that you can gather with regards to what the numbers would look like, how the taxes would change, how the insurance would change, and what you could actually get for rent, you can make an executive decision and share with your siblings so you guys can decide as a family what makes most sense, if it actually is practical to keep it. Because if the cash flow isn't enough, you may want to reconsider. So what I'd like to do is this. I have a lot of clients in a similar stage in the process. And what we do initially is we schedule a very simple, no obligation whatsoever. Why do I say that? People ask, do I have to do anything? No obligation whatsoever, 10, 15-minute phone or Zoom appointment where we can see each other. And what I'll show you, Adelis, are those two things. Number one, what the numbers look like if you rent. Number two, what the cash flow would be. So that way, this way, you guys have all of the information you need, whether you decide to keep it or rent it or sell it. And you can make the decision that you feel is best for you and your family. Does that sound fair to you? Yes. Yes? What would most of you guys do when she says she wants to keep it? Okay, bye-bye. Yes?
I would.
And then you wonder why. You're like, how does he list 100 homes a year? Not by accident.
I would have dug also, and just from because I listened to you and I heard that you said I'd like to keep it. I want to run this myself. My family wants to be involved, but I want to do this for myself. And I'll be, thank you for sharing that with me. I hear what you want to do with the property, and I'm just curious, is everyone on the same page? Because now you may say, no, I want to keep it for myself and I want a rental and I want to keep it residual income, but my brother doesn't want to. He wants me to sell it. So now you can have that conversation. Well, do you have the ability to buy it out?
That's right.
And keep the property for yourself.
And she'll probably be like, no.
Do you even know what that looks like in terms of price, for the property?
Yeah,
So
because
now you're
sometimes,
chatting more.
family members want like the family discount. I'm imagining you want to make sure that you get top value, correct? All right, so then would it be helpful or useful for you to get a clear, realistic picture of equity? Because price is a snapshot in time. These online sites give you estimates of value, but they could be plus or minus like 10% in this geographic area. So if you could see clearly what that is, would that help you as you have conversations with your family to determine if you guys will work it out monetarily?
Yeah.
Yes. You see? So a great sales presentation involves what? How many? An endless amount. You know what most of you guys do? Oh my God, you have a puppy? I have a puppy. We should be friends. Yes? Oh my God, you look at me on Instagram with my one sale. It's immature at best. You're in the presence of a great salesperson when they consistently and perpetually do what? Questions, questions. Anybody besides me ever been in the presence of somebody who really knows what they're doing and you can tell by the quality of questions they ask? How does that immediately make you feel? Safe. I am in good hands. Yes? Awesome. Your objection, what? Yes. Wait, there's here, then here. So your objection was my cousin's a real estate agent? Yeah, I get that. And what I'm aware of is that with these transactions, it requires a little bit more specialized knowledge of the probate process. And I find that it usually makes sense to get more than one opinion with regards to price, marketing strategy, and commission. So that way you could be sure that you're making the best decision for you and your family. Do you think that could be helpful or useful for you in this instance? Yeah, I have seen people that it could be their favorite cousin. And when you say price, strategy, and commission, they're like, well, we're not that close. Yeah? Because what are we talking about now? Money. Right? So I would lean on, it's a specialized kind of knowledge. It's a little bit different than, just selling a property. And because of that specialized knowledge, we can actually end up saving you a lot of time and money. So it usually makes sense to get more than one opinion. Anything you want to add to that?
Just, I would handle it the same way you guys handle that same objection with for sale by owners or expireds also, when their family member's an agent, bring up the comparisons and the second opinion. Ultimately, it's a business decision, and just handle that from there and find out even about that agent. You can ask, hey, it's not very rare that we do come across someone that doesn't have some family member or friend who's an agent. I'm curious, is your cousin a full-time agent in the area, or they're just doing it part-time? Dig a little bit more also, find out what they're doing. He sells a home a year, ask me to do this for him.
That's great. Good.
And I'll give you guys like my feedback, because I coached with Aaron for a long time. The last 5 listings that I've done, we do the cash listing approach, have been, I met with someone else already. So never let that discourage you. Obviously, if it's like a realtor that they love, they'll tell you like, no, this is my best friend, I would never list with anyone. But if you go and you do a nice presentation and you lock it in. There was one where like they had the listing agreement there. Like obviously I know to like not leave. And I need to think about it. We went through that. It was a commission. We figured it out and I got it signed. And she's like, I feel so bad for this other person. But like it's a skill set that takes time to develop, but never let that discourage you from going, because
Feel like a superhuman when you walk out of there.
That's awesome.
I've had coaching clients
Yeah.
call me. They're like, "This is like magic," and I'm like, "It's not magic, bro.
That's
If
awesome.
you know what questions to ask and how to handle it, for sure."
Yeah.
And the first guy I was when I first started selling real estate, I was actually on somebody's team, and he'd take me on listing appointments. And when we would do that, we get in the car. He's like, "There's going to be hearts breaking all over Hollywood tonight." It always made me chuckle. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about like the whole, not a whole process. I have a fear of it. I can't even do it. Like, how do you break through that? Like,
Yeah. So call reluctance is interesting.
I think you mentioned you took you like a couple months.
Yeah. So
It took him probably about a year. to
with
be
this
like,
lead source specifically, it took me longer because I felt like I was being intrusive into someone's personal life, being the fact that someone just passed away. But then I switched my mindset, and every time I dial that phone I'm here to help you. Like I'm calling to provide you a service and assistance, and whether you take advantage of that, great. But if not, I'll find someone else that's open to that same service and that same assistance. So it's coming from a place of assistance, knowing that you're dialing and you're calling these people because you're offering to help them. You're not calling to take something from them. You're calling to give them something. So that's where that mindset is different. You want to really just be there to help them out.
Yeah.
Walk me through like your little journey on this that might take like 12 months of calling and coaching at the same time, or
I was coaching and learning about the lead source. Like I didn't have a fear of calling. Like I was calling expireds. I was calling for sell by owner still. I was doing that. This particular lead source, it was a mindset thing. It was more so just getting over that hump of being that I'm, invading their privacy, and more so like I'm here to help. Like I'm here to provide you with value instead of just take. Like I'm not calling you to take your listing. I'm calling you to see how I can help you.
Yeah. And I think our brains are constantly trying to make sense of reality. And the way we do it is through story, just narrative, right? We just went through an interesting election, yes. 2 people were telling 2 different stories, yes. It's just a narrative about reality, right? Well, when there's a gap in that story, we fill it, but we fill it with assumptions. So what I was writing down here is like, that's what's happening here. There's a gap and you fill it with assumptions. I learned this from Rene Rodriguez, by the way. He wrote a book called Amplify Your Influence. Now, the assumptions that we fill this with, are these true? Some often are assumptions. No, we just make it up. So what is the assumption that you're filling it with? I'm bothering them. Yeah. I don't do this. This is a bad time.
I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say.
I sound stupid.
I sound stupid.
They're gonna hang up on me.
All the above. Look. So look, I'm filling this gap with an assumption. Now, as humans, we have the capacity to create narrative. That narrative can either be empowering or disempowering. Yes? Let me ask you a question. Is this narrative empowering or disempowering? Disempowering. You cower in the corner. Let me ask everybody a question. Are you made in the image of something that cowers? Okay. So then why am I behaving that way? Let me ask you a question. What would be another narrative? You just heard it. What did he say?
I'm helping.
I'm helping people. What else are you telling yourself?
Well, you also, one thing that you're...
Wait, I'm helping. I'm adding
helping,
value.
Adding value.
What else?
I'm a badass.
Providing.
Value. Maybe. I don't know. Go ahead. What else do you tell, like that frame? So I'm adding value, I'm helping, what else?
I'm here to give them services. I'm confident.
I am here to take it off their shoulders, put onto mine, and make it as
Yep.
smooth as possible. Yes.
Relieve stress.
Now let me
Yeah.
ask you a question, because what you focus on is what you feel, and what you feel is your emotional home. So if I'm focused on I am bothering, I don't do this, I'll sound stupid, they're gonna laugh at me, how am I gonna feel? Insecure, weak, and you will not pick up the phone and do it. Yes? If instead what I'm focused on is I am helping, I am adding value, I'm here to serve, how do you feel? Great. Yes? And empowered and on what? Purpose. Yes?
Also, my own takeaway from what I heard you say it twice. You said, I'm not a cold caller. You're like labeling that action. Instead, and I heard this, I believe Lars said it, is new business development. That's what I'm doing. I'm picking up the phone and I'm performing new business development for myself. I have a business. I'm not cold calling. I'm not prospecting. This is my new business development for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, and what I
So-
would do to help with call reluctance is I became very clear that all of my dreams and everything I wanted to accomplish was going to come through strangers. Let me ask you a question. Which group is bigger, the people you know or the people you don't? People you don't. You know what's interesting? As little people, we're taught not to talk to who? Even though they have all the money, yes? That's weird, yeah? So I tied that activity with everything I want. We had a conversation about time, yes? Well, the money allows me to buy assets, which gets me time. So I would have pictures, yes, in life, I would have pictures of my 2 children next to my phone and my wife. Yeah? So not only am I telling myself, hey, I'm here to help, I'm here to be of assistance, I'm here to be of service, I'm here to be a white hat to help them, because truthfully, oftentimes what happens is people do information arbitrage. Sellers don't know how much their home's worth. They make 100 grand, seller gets way less. Do you know how many times I listed a home where they were getting ready to sign a contract, much to other people's chagrin, and I would step in, be like, yo, you don't have to do a thing. I'd get them $50,000 more. And then the investor all of a sudden raises their offer because I get involved. I'm sure like my picture was up in their office, like, you know what I mean? But do you see what I'm saying? When I fill that gap with a different narrative, plus when I tie the activity to the outcomes that I want to produce, that helps you to overcome call reluctance. The third piece is me and him role played every day, 3 days a week for 6 months. When I coached the delis, you know what every single one of our call was? She would hop on the call and role play with me. Every single time we would talk. Hey, I was talking to a seller, they said this. Hey, how do I get a price reduction? Hey, how do I close? Hey, how do I set an appointment? How do I do this? Right? And she was kind enough. She came up to me at an event. She's like, truthfully, I got to give you your flowers because you taught me how to sell. And now people look to her and they're like, yo, you know what they're asking her? How do I say this? How do I do that? So the way that you kind of create, so when I said, how many people here speak Spanish? Okay. Confianza. What does that word mean? Confianza. What does that word mean?
Confidence.
Okay, but what does it actually mean? Oh, who are you trusting? No, yourself. Wow. People say to me, how can you be so confident? You know what they're really saying to me? How do you trust yourself so much? Okay. Is there something in your life that you trust yourself 100% with? Because you spend time, energy, effort, resources, like a lot of time doing it? Where if somebody asks you to do it, you're like, I got you. Okay. How did you develop that trust with yourself? Repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning and the father of action, which makes it the architect of accomplishment. People listen to me. I haven't sold a single piece of real estate in 2 years. Does it sound like I've had these conversations thousands of times? Yes.
No.
People listen to me role play and they're like, wow, that's awesome. And you know what they think? They think a magic sales fairy went like this and sprinkled dust on me. I did not come out of my mother's womb speaking like this. This is nauseating, disgusting amounts of practice. Yeah? You can ask my wife. I would go into my office. There'd be nobody there. I'd be standing in my Crocs. Hi, I was calling about the home that's for sale. But Street is the owner. Great. My name's Aaron. I'm local real estate. People thought I was crazy. Crazy. But then in like 2018, I was the #1 listing agent in the whole county, in our whole MLS system. So those 3 things combined: narrative, tie the activity, and then put in the time. Because now when it's time to play, that's just play. I put in the time. Does that make sense?
And
Yes, go ahead.
before
Did you wanna add that?
I called using my computer and headset, I was on my iPhone all the time, and in the beginning stages, I had a saying on here when I was calling. It was from Alex Ramosi. a lot of money sits on the other side of willing to get rejected by strangers. So a lot of money sits on the other side of willing to get rejected by strangers. So if these are strangers that you're calling, you're more than likely never going to talk to them again unless you're able to follow up, have a good conversation, set an appointment, get a listing. Other than that, you may not get a hold of them, you may not talk to them again, they don't know who you are, they have no effect on you, but you're here to provide a service, and in doing so, you're going to help solve problems and make money because of that.
100%. What I would say is you get paid in correlation with how much rejection you're willing to endure, right? And I often walk in rooms, you know what I say out loud to Carla? I wonder how many people here called me a name my mom didn't give me. I wonder how many people in this room hung up on me and don't even know it. Like, I would understand if you call your best friend, they hang up and you get like, oh, that hurt my feelings. Strangers? Who cares? Yeah? It's the same reason why you guys don't post stuff on media, because you're afraid of getting feedback that you don't like. Question here, then here, yeah.
With, like you said, like, you don't like what you just said about not knowing who you're calling. Do you wait a day and then call back? Like, say if you just...
If they don't answer, or...
No. Like, just to say you screwed it, like in the beginning. I'm sure I'm not what you're going to screw it up in the beginning. And then would you wait a day, 2 days, and then try to call back again?
You mean like if the conversation didn't go well?
Yeah.
And
you verbally vomit and then they like...
Yeah, then if if we didn't have a good conversation and it didn't end well, they're like, oh, no, thanks, and hang up. I'll definitely set a follow-up plan. Like if I talk to them, if I was able to gain some sort of information from them during that conversation, I'm going to set up a follow-up and call again, whether it's 3 days, 4 days, whatever it is, I'm going to have a follow-up with them. If I was able to at least grab their email at minimum, I'm going to send them a quick introduction email with a BombBomb video introducing myself to them so they can kind of see me through video. And again, it may take me 1 or 2 times to actually record that personalized video, but at least I get that off to them clean and they're able to understand everything. And then I'll touch base with them after I send that.
BombBomb video is a nice touch so they can see you. Yeah.
Do you prefer, has anybody used Zoom?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, the reason why I think BombBomb's, I don't know if Loom integrates with Follow Up Boss. The reason why BombBomb's dope is because it integrates in Follow Up Boss. You don't have to go anywhere. So like, let's say you're on the prospect in Follow Up Boss, you literally click the bomb, the video shows up, you shoot the video, it's gone. Versus like, wait a minute, I gotta go over, right?
Yeah, you gotta copy the link.
So if it integrates, I would say yes. If not, then just use BombBomb. Yeah.
What is your calling look like these days? Like, are you time blocking? Are you calling yourself? Like, what is that look like?
Yeah, so I definitely fit it in during the day. I'll usually do mid-morning calling, and then I take a quick break for lunch, and then I do afternoon calling as well, or even evening.
How many hours a day?
I 2 hours minimum. Minimum is devoted to my new business development
Daily.
and daily. And even on like Saturdays, if I'm not calling and I'm just, sitting in the car at my son's baseball practice or something, I'll start sending out texts, and it'll just be text to my follow-up boss. So now they're still getting in front of them. Email, text, call, it's all, and I look at it like, like you said, it's all a way to create business, because I feel, and I'm competitive just like he is. I feel like if I'm not doing something, I'm doing myself a disservice, right? And then I'm doing them a disservice because I'm not able to help people, and I'm not reaching them, and in turn, someone may be calling them, and someone else. So it's really about just getting a schedule that works for you.
Yeah, and
sticking to it.
I think that your goal dictates your plan, right? So depends on what your goal is. So if your goal is to do what he's doing, which is 2 to 4 listings per month, you're going to need to prospect 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. It's just what's required. I think the reality, I'm not suggesting it's true for you, but just in general, most people don't produce the outcomes that they want because A, they're unclear on what it's going to take, or B, deep down, they're not willing to do it. They just don't admit it. And then they play this whole game like, oh, I got to get back to it. I really got to try. The truth is you're just not willing to do it, right? So I think it just depends. If you want to take 1 listing from this source, yeah, like probably like 3 days a week, a couple hours. What I did to list 60 was 2 to 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, right? So I think it just depends on what your actual goal is. And in that vein, I want everybody to hear me, okay? Pay very close attention to what I'm going to say to you. How many people here grew up thinking that $100,000 was a lot of money? Yeah, all you guys. Do you know why you thought $100,000 was a lot of money? Because your parents thought this was a lot of money. You know why they thought it was a lot of money? Because it actually was 30 years ago. Yeah? How much were houses in Broward County 30 years ago? 80 grand. 100,000 bucks. I was telling Carl on the way here, I used to sell homes in Sunrise for $150,000, $180,000. They sell for $550, $600 now. Yeah? The lowest condo I ever sold during 2008, whatever, was for $13,000 in a 55 and older community. Okay? So the reason we thought 100,000 bucks was a lot of money was because it was 30, 50 years ago. Let me ask you a question. If you make 100 grand, right, gross, you pay expenses, your broker, whatever, you have business expenses, yes? Then you have living expenses, yes? How much money is left over?
$500.
At the end of the year, 5 grand, maybe. Let me ask you a question. Can you get ahead doing that? I'm sorry, louder?
No.
Louder. So why do we settle for it? And let me tell you this, yes, I'll get to you. It doesn't matter who is the president. They can't change that for you. The only person who can change it is yourself. It's the only one. Yes? So you just have to, like, you know, expand what you think is a lot. Because I realized it wasn't, because you know what else is true? How many people's parents saved the way that they were supposed to? Yeah. Who do you think is going to help them? Yeah. That's what I became aware of. I'm like, oh man, they didn't save. They need my help. My mom lives in a condo that I bought her. My dad eventually is probably going to need somebody to help him. Guess who's going to help him? So as I'm thinking about like what I want, I know what his goals are. He wants to sell 100 homes a year like I did. So with that, he has to follow a certain plan, right? He wants certain things and he's clear on how to get it.
And I do this, I was going to show you real quick. I do this every night before I call it a night, go to sleep, whatever. I write out my plan for the next day. And it has everyone I'm following up with. It has my time blocks in there. So if I write that, hey, I'm calling between 9 a.m. and noon, that's what I'm doing because nothing else is in my plan, right? So, and I stick to it.
But what happens if somebody calls you or somebody texts you or somebody sends an email? Like, what do you do?
The way I do it is I call for it's like 55 minutes, and then I take a 5-minute break. And if I need to.
Is your email up in front of you while you're doing it?
No.
I'm sorry, what?
No.
Is your cell phone around you while you're doing it?
Cell phone's there, but it's on silent.
Oh, I'm sorry, what? Where do you guys keep your cell phone at all times? Yeah, you know, that was actually a device, because I'm old enough to remember stopping at payphones. Yeah? Okay. You know what a cell phone ended up happening? Payphone was this way, me to you, yes? Now do you know what it is? Everything is where? Yeah? So you guys, you're like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm like, no, you're not.
Instagram.
You're solving other people's problems that aren't yours. Yeah? So it's distractions. So his email's not open and his cell phone is away from him. Do you know how you guys run your business mostly? Whack-a-mole. You're like, oh, I'm going to make calls. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Today's my day. New year, new me. Hashtag thriving, blessed.
You call to follow up.
Right? Then what ends up happening, you get one email. Yeah? About your deal, singular. Yeah? Like, oh, well, I got to pay attention to that. So you completely stop doing what you're doing, and then you're not prospecting anymore. Yeah? So he set up a system in which he's insulated from that. Cell phone's away from me, email is closed. Right? The way that I would think about this time, this is like I'm going to a bank. People would tell me, like, I never see you out at night. I'm like, I never see you at the bank, bro. Yeah? This is what this is. Imagine having a cash register. What I thought of as you were saying, I'm in the rejection business. The more I get rejected, the more money I make. I remember standing in front of a room like this. I'm like, I made 7,200 contacts this year. I got 142 people to say yes. 142 times over 10,000 bucks is a lot of money. It's over $1 million bucks, yeah? So creating an environment that makes it easy for you to stay on task, time on task.
Yeah, you just have open on your screen your follow boss or whatever CRM you're using, your scripts right next to you if you need to follow those, and any property data website or anything that you can, reference if you're having a conversation with someone.
Love that.
And that's
Yes.
it. I use follow boss.
Go ahead.
So when someone says to you, I just spoke to an investor, he's going to pay me cash.
Yeah.
I need to get rid of it. Like,
Yeah, here's what I'll say, and I want all the investors to perk up and listen to what I'll say to them. I'll be like, yeah, it's not uncommon that investors reach out, and for some people that makes sense to them. They're more interested in like speed and perhaps efficiency where they don't have to deal with anything on the inside. What I'm also aware of, though, is that the investor's intention is to make a profit themselves, and it's not uncommon where you end up selling for drastically less than what you can get on the open market. So we've had instances where we can help families get $30,000, $50,000 more than just that cash offer. Now, what investors will tell you is that that's going to take a long time to do and have a lot of friction. My experience is that's not true. We've sold properties in 3 days, 7 days. So if you could still sell the property quickly and make an extra $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 for you and your family, is that something that you would be opposed to? Well, if I said, is that something you would be opposed to, you'd probably be like, no, I wouldn't be opposed to that, right? Just by you saying that demonstration, we should get together and discuss the options, may I make a suggestion? Then I go into a closing sequence, and at the end of the closing sequence, so it sounds like you've decided that you're definitely going to sell. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of how, whether to sell with a cash offer or on the open market. And it also sounds like the more information you can gather right now, the better equipped you'll be, so you can make the decision that you feel is best for you and your family. Notice, is this about me? No. So what I'd like to do is this. I have a lot of clients in the same stage in the process, and what we do initially is we schedule a very simple 10, maybe 15-minute, no obligation whatsoever, phone or Zoom appointment. Why do I say 10 or 15 minutes? Because none of us have time. Yeah? Those 10 or 15 minutes conversations turn into 45 minutes.
40,
an hour.
45.
Yeah.
Easy.
So, and what I'll show you are those two things. Number one, if, and I'm clear that that is an if, you did decide to explore putting it on the open market, what would be top dollar? What would be the most amount we could expect to receive? And net bottom line, what the proceeds would be to you and your family when it shakes out. The second thing I could show you is our system and process that we utilize to make that happen very quickly and efficiently, and take as much off of your shoulders, put onto ours, and make it smooth and easy with some of these ancillary services. And then at least this way, whether you decide to go with the cash offer or you decide to put it on the open market, you'll have all the information you need so you can make the decision for you and your family that you feel is best. How many use? 4 or 5, yeah? What do you guys say? I. Yes? Because where does that tell us our frame of mind is on? Me. Yeah? So when I say that to you, you're like, yeah, that's cool, right? So that's how I would handle it.
And at one point, when we talk about the vendors involved, things like this, what point do you have to sign the listing agreement to make sure that?
Good.
Prior to that. So
Now talk about this, because this was like a challenge for you.
So me coordinating anything. So again, it's I want to ensure that they're comfortable and confident in me and my services. So in order to do so, that's when we go over the listing agreement, and that needs to take place prior to me putting a lot of energy, effort, and time, or even pushing it off to a coordinator to do that work for them. Because in the end, what is it going to do if I provide all these services and they go list with this guy over here?
Yeah, and a lot of people try to be like the nice guy and do all the services, hoping that they'll end up going with you, only to have your heart broken when they do something else. Yes? Yes. She's like, yeah, that's happened to me. So instead, the language, how you can phrase this, let's say we present to you and you're like, yeah, well, that makes sense. So when can we get started on preparing it? Great. Well, so just so I'm clear, I'm more than happy to discuss kind of procedurally next steps. Just so I'm clear, it sounds like, based on our conversation today and what I'm hearing from you, that you've decided that you would like for me and my team to help you with the sale. Is that correct? Yeah. What do most of you guys do? You assume. What's the thing about assumption? That's right. And you end up running around doing all this work and not getting paid. Yes? So I'm going to be very direct. The thing with sales that makes it like kind of uncomfortable or squishy is a lack of clarity. Wouldn't you just like somebody to tell you, hey, I'm just being nice to you. I'm not interested in listening with you. Wouldn't that be great? You know what a magical way to find that out is? Ask them. That's it. So I'm asking you directly, right? So have you already decided you'd like me to help you with the sale? You're like, yeah, great. So then what we do in these situations procedurally is next step is my staff will send you the appropriate documentation, the listing paperwork. We're going to put in the additional terms and conditions that you give us permission to withhold it from the multiple listing service while it's being prepared for sale. Okay? You'll authorize it. And what that will allow me to do, listen to that language. What that will allow me to do is to get the vendors organized to begin the process of preparing the property for sale. What we can also begin to do is pre-market the property, let people know it's getting ready to come on the market for sale. So that way, when it is ready, we have buyers lined up, we can open up the floodgates and hopefully get lots of showings and offers. Does that make sense to you? Would you like to take advantage of that? If my staff gets you the paperwork today, when can we expect to receive it back? Most of you guys don't ask that. And then you know what ends up happening? you feel like a creep because you got to call them like 5, 6, 7 times a day. Anybody besides me find that disgusting? Doesn't it feel gross? Because they're like, yo, I want to work with you. And then you leave it wide open. And then you feel like a stage 5 clinger, like that person that wants to date you and keeps texting you like a million times. You're like, bro, right? That's what ends up happening. But it's because of a lack of clarity. If I send this to you today, when can we expect to receive it back? Why is that so powerful? Tell me. Timeline.
Locks them in.
And if they tell me in 2 days, if they don't send it in 2 days, what does that give me permission to do? Follow up. And people don't like to go against what they've said. If you tell me you're going to do something in 2 days, you're probably going to do it. Does that make sense? So it's not uncommon when I was heavily in production, I would have 10 listing agreements signed, waiting to come on the market. Right, Carla? All the time.
So-
Listings where we didn't do anything to the property and sold it as is.
100%.
Right. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
then what I did is I also created relationships with investors where we could plug them into these types of opportunities. And what they would do is they would pay us a bonus on the buy side. A bonus on the buy side commission. Yeah, they pay like $5,000, $10,000. They're happy to do it. So not only would you get whatever percentage you agreed on with the seller, but you'd also get that buy side. So you could take, so you could take a little, $250,000, $300,000 house. It ends up being like a $25,000 commission. Just as cool as selling those high price homes. Yeah.
Also, what he brought up about the pre-marketing is huge, and that's how you can also get those necessary documents authorized prior to the home going on the market.
That took you to another level.
Yeah, because a lot of times people are hesitant. Some of the objections you may get is that, well, the attorney says we can't sell it yet, or maybe there's it's not a homesteaded property, it was an investment property, so that they have to wait for a little longer. There's no need for you to say, oh, okay, I'll call you back in 2 months. No, because there's someone that's going to call, like myself or Aaron, who's going to say, well, look, there's other strategies that we can do while this time is progressing.
So
right?
Did you hear what he just said? Which is so good. So you'll call and they'll be like, yeah, call me back in a couple months. And what will you say? Okay. Yeah. And then you know what you tell your friends? Oh, I got this great lead. Oh, yeah. They're going to list with me. Yeah. I'm going to make like $15,000. Yep. It's mine. It's mine, I tell you. And then me and Heath call. Yeah. We do the pre-listing thing. We get the listing agreement signed. You call back in 2 months. And what do they tell you? I already signed an agreement. And you're like,
sold it.
you're like, woohoo, but I thought we were besties. Yes?
It depends. For me, if they say their name, like, hi, this is Aaron, leave a message, then I know I had the right number. Then I'll leave a message similar to my opening. And I do get calls back through voicemail. If no one answers, I'll shoot a quick text. Because a lot of times I know nowadays, a lot of people don't answer numbers they don't know on their phone.
How many of you guys get mad when somebody calls you versus text? Yeah, you would prefer what? Text. So we found when we looked at those metrics, texting 17% response rate, telephone 2%. It's much higher. So if you're not using a CRM though, you can't do it efficiently. So because he's in follow-up, see what you would have to do right now is you would call them, then you'd have to text them, then you'd have to send an email, right? But if it's all in one place, you could do all three of those things at the same time. I can send a bomb video, I can text message him, call him. Yeah?
Yeah, I click on call through follow-up boss, then no answer. I have a text message template already established. Click on send text, it sends right to them. And then I'll move on to the next one. Yes, of course, yeah. If I still didn't hear anything, then I'll give them another call. It's usually like 4 touches per person, 4 to 5. I'll try to reach out, whether it's email, text, or through phone calls. Yeah, so I'll definitely, and again, he brought it up earlier, definitely call the beneficiaries that are listed because you may have a wrong number for the PR. And I've even come across sometimes where the actual beneficiary is handling the affairs of the estate, not the person who's listed as the PR. You get a hold of the beneficiary, they're like, yep, I'm handling everything.
Yeah.
So I spoke to one recently that I closed over here in Hollywood where the brother handled everything, even though the sister was named the PR.
There you go.
Was that because there were different locations or he was in the property?
It was just because she was here in Broward. He lived a little further north. So she did all the paperwork for the PR and she became the PR, but he handled
It's just like relationship dynamics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good question. So my professional experience is the following. You want to find out if there's any disagreement. If there's disagreement, personally, I'm out. because it's a complication. It's going to take too long. It's me personally. I think the OK leads hide the fantastic ones. Most of you guys spend too much time on OK leads. If they're not an 8, 9, or a 10 for me, I'm not interested. Okay. So the first thing I would ask is like, well, you know, I'm curious. I've only spoken to you. You seem to be kind of in the vein of selling. I see here there's other beneficiaries, your sister, Susie, your brother, John, which also, if I have that information, when I say your sister and your brother's name, what happens? What do you feel? Well, not only that, but like, you know them. How do you know them? Yeah? Yeah. So your sister, Susie, your brother, John, like, is there any disagreement with regards to selling, or is everybody on the same page? Yes? More often than not, they'll be on the same page. I say probably 50% of the time. If there's disagreement, there's fighting, like whatever, usually I'm not interested. But if they're like, yeah, we're all on the same page. Okay, great. And it looks like here, this was a homesteaded property for your family member, meaning it was their primary residence at the time of passing. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, so my professional experience is provided that 3 criteria are met. Number 1, it's homesteaded. Number 2, it's passing to linear heirs. Think linear like a line, right? That's a fancy word for direct descendants like siblings or children. And number 3, there's no fighting or disagreement. And that's what I'm hearing from you. So provided that that's what's true, the personal representative can authorize listing paperwork. It's fine. They just sign as PR. They put their initials, PR, signature, personal representative of the Smith estate, whatever, right? I'm not an attorney. I'm just sharing with you in practice what we do. Now, when it comes time for closing, if it's a homesteaded property, what's really happening is you have multiple owners. Yeah? Each one of those people, let's say you and your 2 siblings, each sibling owns a portion of the property, like 33%. So at closing, they need to sign a deed, right? Transferring their ownership. So when it comes to closing, let the title make sure they get everybody's signatures. But listing paperwork, it's fine. Like just have the personal representative and PR.
But at the same time, during your Zoom call and appointment with them, ensure you have everyone there. So you can answer all their questions.
Recently, didn't you?
Answer all their questions. And at the same time, you know, because I've
what ended up happening?
done it in the practice. Still haven't heard back from that lady. So you can make sure everyone's on the same page, because you don't want one relative saying, yes, we're all on the same page, everyone's going to sell. And then you're like, great, let's go. You get the house listed, it's under contract. Next thing you know, brother's like, I'm not selling. I don't want to sell the property. You know, I don't know why she said I wanted to. Now you have a mess on your hands. So, you know, ensure that they're either all in the appointment together, or I know that sometimes schedules are conflicting. Get on the phone with that other relative, or set a separate Zoom appointment with that other relative just to cover everything and answer any questions that they may have. Because I'm aware that I know you're going to pass information on to your brother, and I'm confident that you're going to do a great job. However, I do prefer just to link up with them, whether it's Zoom or phone, just so I can ensure that all their questions are answered and we're all moving in the right direction.
And I could do a great job for you and your family. Does that make sense? So he learned this the hard way. He calls me and he's like, bro, what happened? I talked to them. They were like, yes, I'm going to list with you. I was talking to the PR. She said she's handling it. And, you know, she said she was handling it. And I sent them list paperwork and they ghosted me. Anybody had that happen besides me? Yeah. And I started asking questions. I'm like, are there any other beneficiaries? He's like, oh yeah, brother, but she told me. I'm like, did you talk to him? Nope. I'm like, that's the problem. Yeah? Because when there's more than 2 people in a room, it's a crowd, yes? Everybody has their own opinions. So what I told him is what you're doing is you basically want to create an environment that dramatically increases the probability that you're going to get a contract signed. And if there's multiple decision makers, make sure they're involved. Either you get on the phone and talk to them. I've had where they have an agent that's helping them to find an agent down here. Anybody ever had that before? Yeah, guess what I do? What do you think I do? Based on what I just told you, what do you think I do? I get the agent on the phone. I want them present during the presentation, because who's actually the one that's going to guide that decision making?
That agent.
You're like, oh, but I talked to the owner and me and her were buddies. Like, she has a doggy and I have a doggy. Nope, you're not talking to the decision maker. Yes? So just corralling everybody in a room, presenting, and increasing the probability that they're going to get something signed.
We even, one of my other recent listings, they actually had a Zoom and they invited their probate attorney on the Zoom with me.
Love that.
Because they wanted him to be part of the interview process as well.
Dope. And then when you're professional and whatever, and the attorney's there, they're like, yeah.
He's like, yeah.
This is good.
And you're saying things that, you know, the probate attorney agrees with,
and you're
process.
You're demonstrating competency because you're
knowledge
the process. Yeah. It's, you know, it's a homestead, like all that.
Right.
So it's different procedurally. So in order to transfer clear title, that's why you need to go through the probate process. So if it's not a homesteaded property, you need to get an order to list the real property and an order to sell it. You can do that, right? So that's the main difference. If it's a homesteaded property and it's passing to linear heirs, technically it passes outside of probate. That's my professional experience.
If it's not linear.
Well, if it's not linear, what happens is it goes, like if there are no linear heirs, so Grandpa Joe, yeah, so Grandpa Joe didn't have any, or, you know, like children, then it goes up. Did he have any brothers or sisters? Yeah. So that's how it functions. Depending on the attorney, truthfully. So attorneys are like contractors. No disrespect for attorneys if you're watching, but they usually throw a lot of stuff on the wall and like see what shakes out, right? Most of them don't want to go to the courthouse because it takes some time and they have to charge people money for it. But what I found is if you pay them $500 to go, it could save like 3 months. So you work with an awesome attorney who's very quick and efficient. I did as well. With a really good attorney, and if it's homesteaded and there's no fighting or anything, it could take like 30 days. For other attorneys who just throw stuff on the wall, it might take 6 months.
Yeah,
Would you
and
agree with
then it extends. You know, there's different circumstances. So if there is someone, like you said, contesting the estate, or someone's contesting even the PR, which I've talked to people before. It can be definitely a drawn out process where you can just kind of follow up every once in a while, just see how that court process is going. But more so if it's a very simple administration, maybe a summary administration, it's going to go by pretty quick. And then these attorneys, they're pretty helpful when you're working for the client, working for the seller, and you try to reach out to either the paralegal or even just sending them an email back and forth. They're pretty compliant and helpful in sending some of the information that's needed.
This makes sense?
Letting you know a time frame also.
Yeah, and again, I would just make a decision and be cautious about chasing like problems, meaning like fighting or disagreement or litigation. They usually, or if like they can't find one of the siblings, I've had that. You have to hire a personal investigator to track them down. You got to prove that you try to find them, and then it has to go something called a partition, where they sell the property, put the funds in an account to try to find them. It's like a long, drawn out thing.
I'm working with a client now that's doing a partition.
Yeah.
You know, there's 3 family members that want to sell the property, beautiful home in West Boca.
One doesn't.
One doesn't. So they're in the process now of filing a partition. And again, I'm not constantly dumping a lot of effort and energy into this person, but I'm helping like when I can. Like, here's a market update, you know, here's a quick email, you know, here I am when you're ready, you know, hope all is going well. Here's an attorney referral, you know, just to get them going the right direction.
Yeah, but it's not like you're like hyper focused on it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So at that stage, you don't have a
No,
waiting to
no.
get where it's all figured out, and then
Correct.
Yeah, and I think like in summary, guys, like you really have to make a decision. This is cool because it's captivating your attention. It must be valuable. Is just so you guys know, your attention spans are like 3 seconds on TikTok. Just so you know. So for something to captivate your attention for an extended period of time, it must be valuable. In summary, this is a fantastic lead source. Okay. The last time we had transaction volume drop from 7 million, like this drastic of a drop, we were at 6 to 7 million. This year, we're on track for 3.8. The last time we had that amount of drop in transactions, how long do you think it took to get back up to the high? A decade. Yeah? You notice the energy in the room? Here we are hoping and wishing and praying. Oh, I really hope the new administration. Oh, I really hope interest rates. Oh, I'm praying to the real estate gods. It took 10 years to get back to the previous volume. There's always deals to be done in the marketplace. You're only one relationship away from finding them. Our intention today was to be that relationship for you guys. So how many people can say emphatically that you can walk out of here with something tangible you can make money with? Yes or yes? Yes. All right, terrific. So with that, what we're going to do now, you think we should take a break for like 10 minutes? Or? No, okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to pivot and have just a very quick conversation with you with regards to something that dramatically changed my life. So if I was to ask you guys, what's the definition of time? Give me answers. What's time?
Limited resource.
Limited resource. What else? Huh? An asset. What else is time? Money. Let's go. Time is money. What else is it? What's the definition of time?